Lena and Samir were born in the same small town, yet their worlds could not have been further apart. Lena came from a life of comfort and privilege. She was a white, Christian girl raised in a wealthy home where every need was met, and every future seemed certain. Samir, on the other hand, was the son of immigrants. He grew up in a working-class family, where hard work was the rhythm of life and dreams often felt too heavy to carry. Their paths were never meant to cross, at least not in the way they eventually did. But love, as it always does, ignored the walls built by society. Lena and Samir first saw each other when they were still teenagers. And in that moment, something unexplainable passed between them, a spark. A silent recognition of two souls reaching for one another. What began as stolen glances slowly turned into secret meetings. And what began as innocent laughter became something far deeper, something neither of them had ever known before. They knew their love was forbidden. Their families, tied down by tradition, religion, and expectation, would never allow them to be together. Still, Lena and Samir could not deny the pull of their hearts. Every kiss was a rebellion, every touch a promise, and every whispered word an act of courage against the world that wanted to keep them apart. The fear of being discovered only made their moments more precious. Time together felt like raindrops falling on dry land, brief, fragile, yet life-giving. They believed in the purity of what they had found. To them, love was not bound by wealth, religion, or culture. It was something sacred, something written in the language of the soul. When Lena looked into Samir's eyes, she did not see a boy from a different background. She saw a home, a place where her spirit could rest. When Samir held her hand, he did not see the barriers of privilege. He felt only the truth of a connection that defied reason. Though the world stood against them, Lena and Samir held tightly to one another, convinced that their love was stronger than the forces trying to break them apart. For in each other, they had found not just affection, but the kind of love that makes life worth living. The kind of love that feels eternal, even in stolen moments. As time moved forward, the weight of the world began pressing down on Lena and Samir's fragile but powerful love. What once felt like a dream, pure and unshakable, was now tested by the voices of their families and the rigid walls of their communities. Lena's parents were outraged when they discovered her secret. To them, love was not enough. It had to fit the boundaries of wealth, race, and religion. They forbade her from ever seeing Samir again, as if love could be chained or silenced by rules. Samir's family was no kinder. They told him he must honor his roots, that he had to marry a girl from their own community and faith. To them, love was not about the soul but about tradition, expectation, and duty. The weight of those words pressed hard on his heart, leaving him torn between loyalty to his family and the undeniable pull of Lena's love. For a time, they tried to obey. They tried to stay apart, to convince themselves that their love was too dangerous, too costly to hold on to. But love, true love, does not vanish so easily. The more they tried to silence their hearts, the louder those hearts called for one another. Every passing day only deepened their ache. So they chose the only path their souls could accept, to meet again in secret. Each meeting was risky, yet each felt like life itself. They would slip away into quiet corners of the world where no eyes could find them, where they could breathe freely and let their love bloom. Every stolen embrace carried the sweetness of eternity, and every whispered promise was wrapped in both passion and fear. They knew the dangers. They knew discovery could shatter their fragile peace. But when they looked at each other, none of that mattered. The fire between them burned brighter than the threats surrounding them. They were no longer just a boy and a girl in love. They were two souls defying the world, holding on to something greater than fear, greater than family, greater than tradition. And in those secret moments, Lena and Samir discovered a truth they could never unlearn. Real love is not fragile, nor does it bow to chains. It grows stronger in struggle, fiercer in the face of opposition. Their hearts had chosen each other, and no command or warning could undo that sacred bond. One night, fate revealed its cruel hand. Lena's father discovered the secret he had feared for so long. Rage filled his eyes as he confronted them, his voice thundering with anger. He demanded that Lena end her relationship with Samir immediately, insisting that love had no right to cross the lines of family, culture, and faith. But Lena's heart would not bend. With quiet strength, she refused to give up the man she loved. In that moment, her father's fury burned hotter than any flame. He disowned her, casting her out of the home where she had grown up, severing ties with the daughter who had once been his pride. With nowhere left to turn, Lena and Samir chose to leave everything behind. Hand in hand, they walked away from the town that had never truly accepted them. And together they stepped into a nearby city, hoping to build a new beginning. But the world did not welcome them with open arms. Whispers followed them, judgment lingered in every glance, and strangers looked upon them as though their love was a crime. Society, bound by prejudice, kept reminding them that they did not belong. Life in the city was not easy. They worked tirelessly just to make ends meet, often sacrificing sleep and comfort to survive. The weight of rejection from their families, combined with the harshness of society, pressed heavily on their young love. What once was bright and effortless now carried the scars of struggle. Their bond was tested again and again, not by their hearts, but by the cruelty of the world around them. Then, as if fate had not already taken enough, Lena's health began to fail. Illness struck her body, and the light in her eyes grew dim. She was admitted to the hospital, where white walls and silent corridors became their new reality. Through it all, Samir never left her side. He held her hand when she was too weak to speak, whispered words of comfort when her body trembled, and stayed awake night after night just to watch over her. His love did not falter. It only grew stronger, as if suffering had purified it. Though the world had rejected them, though their families had turned away, Lena and Samir clung to the one truth that never changed. Their love was real. It was the kind of love that endured pain, defied rejection, and stood unshaken in the face of life's hardest storms. Lena's body grew still in Samir's arms, and in that silence his world collapsed. The warmth of her touch slipped away, leaving behind a cold emptiness that pierced him deeper than any blade could. He pressed her close against his chest, rocking back and forth as if his love alone could pull her back from the edge. Tears streamed down his face as he whispered her name over and over, begging her not to leave him, pleading with her to breathe again. But her eyes remained closed, her lips silent, and her heart unmoving. The cruel truth was clear: his beloved Lena was gone. Samir felt as though his soul had been torn in half. Every dream they had built, every promise they had made, shattered in that single moment. He cried out to the heavens, his voice heavy with despair, asking why love had been given to him only to be ripped away so mercilessly. For a moment, hopelessness consumed him, and he wanted nothing more than to follow her into the silence, to let death unite them where life had failed. But then a memory stirred, soft, fragile, yet filled with light. He remembered his grandmother's voice from long ago, telling him of a sacred secret that ran through their bloodline. She had spoken of an ancient ritual, whispered through generations, powerful enough to challenge even death itself. It was said to be a ritual of love and spirit, capable of calling a soul back from the other side. Yet, no one in modern times had dared attempt it, and no one knew if it truly worked. To most, it was only a myth, a story told by elders to comfort grieving hearts. To Samir, in that moment of unbearable loss, it was more than a story. It was a fragile thread of hope, the only hope he had left. His heart told him that love this deep, love that had endured every trial, could not end so easily. He brushed the hair from Lena's pale face, kissed her forehead, and whispered through trembling lips that he would not give up on her. Not now. Not ever. With the weight of grief in his chest and the fire of devotion in his soul, Samir resolved to try the impossible. If there was even the faintest chance that this ritual could bring Lena back, he would risk everything, his strength, his life, even his very soul. For without her, nothing else in the world mattered. Desperation clung to Samir's soul like a storm that refused to pass. With every breath, he felt the weight of Lena's absence, yet deep inside, a small flame of hope flickered. He could not let go, not when love still thundered in his veins. And so, he turned to the one person who carried the wisdom of their ancestors, his grandmother. She had once spoken of the ancient ritual, and though she had only attempted it in her youth, she agreed to help him now. Together, bound by love and blood, they prepared to challenge the silence of death itself. Through the dim light of the night, they gathered the sacred herbs, roots, and spices whispered about for generations. Each one carried its own meaning: purification, renewal, and the binding of spirit to flesh. As the air filled with the fragrance of burning incense, Samir's heart pounded with equal parts fear and devotion. His grandmother's voice wove chants that seemed older than time, while Samir knelt beside Lena's still body, holding her hand as though his touch alone could anchor her soul. Hours passed, each moment feeling like eternity. Sweat rolled down Samir's face, his body trembling under the weight of faith and exhaustion. He whispered Lena's name again and again, his voice raw with longing. The room felt alive with unseen energy, shadows shifting, the air thickening, as if the universe itself was listening. And then, just as the final words of the ritual left his grandmother's lips, something stirred. At first, Samir thought his grief was playing cruel tricks on his eyes. Lena's fingers twitched faintly in his grasp, and for a moment, his breath caught in disbelief. He leaned closer, desperate, terrified that hope was deceiving him. But then, her chest rose with the smallest breath, her eyelids fluttering like wings fighting to open. Tears spilled freely down Samir's face as reality struck him. This was no illusion. The love he thought he had lost forever was returning to him. He whispered her name with a voice trembling between sobs and laughter. When her eyes opened, soft and fragile, it felt as though the stars themselves had descended into the room. Against all odds, against death itself, Lena had come back. Samir cradled her in his arms, overwhelmed by gratitude and awe. The impossible had happened, not through power alone, but through love that refused to surrender. In that moment he knew. Their bond was stronger than time, stronger than fate, and even stronger than death. When Lena first opened her eyes, her body was frail, and her spirit seemed fragile, like a delicate flame struggling against the wind. Samir stayed close to her side, guiding her through every uncertain step, his love acting as the strength she lacked. Though weak and disoriented, Lena slowly began to heal, and with each passing day, the light in her eyes returned. Every breath she took felt like a gift, every heartbeat a miracle, and together, they both understood that destiny had granted them something extraordinary, a second chance at life, and an even deeper chance at love. They knew they could not remain in the place where judgment and prejudice had nearly destroyed them. The whispers, the disapproving eyes, the heavy chains of tradition and expectation, all of it had tried to suffocate their love. So Lena and Samir left behind the town that had never accepted them. With courage in their hearts and hope in their hands, they moved to a new city where no one knew their names, where they could be free to write their own story without fear. In this new chapter, their love flourished like never before. The hardships they had endured had carved strength into their souls, binding them together in a way no obstacle could undo. Their relationship was no longer just a romance. It was a testimony of survival, of faith, of devotion that had conquered even death itself. Every morning, Samir would wake with gratitude simply to see Lena breathing beside him. And every evening, Lena would hold his hand a little tighter, remembering the man who had refused to give up on her when the world had demanded surrender. They cherished each moment as if it were their last. Sunsets became sacred. Laughter became eternal music. And silence between them spoke volumes of comfort and peace. They lived their lives not in grand luxuries, but in the richness of love, carrying within them the memory of the miracle that had restored what seemed lost forever. And so Lena and Samir grew old together, their love remaining as fierce and radiant as it had been in their youth. They never forgot the night death tried to part them, nor the sacred bond that brought them back. Until their final days, they lived as two hearts beating with one rhythm, forever grateful for the rarest of gifts, love that had triumphed over time, fate, and even death itself.